Welcome, everybody, to the Seattle Storytellers Guild Story Fest for September. I'm Judith Alexander, and I'm the acting president of the Guild right now. And so you may want to mute yourself as we still probably admit some people. And we do want to acknowledge that we're on the land of Native people of the Pacific Northwest, Coast Salish, and other people who have cared for the land, and we hope to carry on that tradition. The reason that we're telling peace tales tonight has to do with the fact that I saw Northeast Storytellers group had decided to honor the United Nations International Day of Peace, which is tomorrow, with peace tales all over the region. So there are library events, there are house concerts, there are bigger things going on all over Northeast. And it's inspired people to do peace tales in Florida and now in the Seattle area. And we're welcoming all the people from close by and those who are further away to our evening of tales tonight. Barry's going to speak a little bit about the United Nations International Day of Peace, and then we will begin our stories with our invited tellers and a story swap. Well,
yes, the International Day of Peace originated back in 81, I believe, but it really dates itself to 1999, which, if you do your math real quickly, you realize this is the 25th anniversary of the International Day of Peace, which is observed annually on September 21st. The idea of the day is not simply to celebrate the fact that there's peace in the world, because obviously there hasn't been, and there certainly isn't. But what it is it's a day to remind ourselves of what it takes to have peace, which is to work and establish values on which peace and conflict can you can bring about peace in the midst of conflict. You can bring disparate groups together. And so they came up with a declaration in 1999 laying out the values for a culture of peace. These include, and I'll excuse me for reading, respect for life, human rights and fundamental freedoms, the promotion of nonviolence through education, dialogue, and cooperation, a commitment to peaceful settlement of conflicts, adherence to freedom, justice, democracy, tolerance, solidarity, cooperation, pluralism, cultural diversity, dialogue and understanding at all levels of society and among nations. In follow-up resolutions, they recognize further the importance of choosing negotiation over confrontation and understanding at all levels of society and among nations. The Constitution of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which we know as UNESCO, starts out with the notion that wars begin in the mind, and so peace has to begin in the mind as well. It's for this notion that this year's observance is called Developing a Culture of Peace. The ideas of peace, the culture of peace, the need to be cultivated in the minds of children and communities through formal and informal education across countries and generations is a very important part of all this. And so we're doing what we can here, because obviously you know that to achieve these things, you got to have storytelling. Storytelling is a way in which you can communicate values, you can reach across barriers, you can bring people together. And we just happen to have in our midst a woman who wrote a book on peace that is been probably one of the standards for finding stories to bring about peace between disparate groups. Margaret Reed MacDonald's Peace Tales, which was published in, I had a date down, but I don't have it in front of me, um, has got 37 stories and proverbs and other things dealing with different aspects of peace. And surprisingly, quite a few of the stories we're going to hear tonight are contained in that volume. I'll put a link later in the chat where you can find that book on Amazon, and also a little bit more itself will go into the chat. But for right now, this is actually a day early to get us started on celebrating the United Nations International Day of Peace.
Thank you, Barry. And now, I guess Margaret's already been introduced, so we'll just have him spotlight Margaret, and please share with us some stories about peace.
Okay, well, I thought I should tell a story from Peace Tales. I know that a lot of you already tell stories from Peace Tales, so I chose a story from this collection that I don't think anyone has ever told. And when I finish it, you'll see why they never tell it. But I think it's a strong story. It's a Kath Lamott story from Oregon. And this is the story. There was a chief who had 5 uncles. Each uncle had a village. He had many relatives. Every morning that chief would wake up and he would go out and he would watch for the sun to rise. He would look at that sun and it was shining. It looked powerful. He liked that sun. He was drawn to that sun. He said to his wife, "I want to go to the sun." She said, "It is too far. You cannot go to the sun." But every morning he would look at that sun. It was shining. It was powerful. He said, "Make me 10 pairs of moccasins and 10 pairs of leggings." And he took those and he set off for the sun. He went to the village of the first uncle, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth uncle. He wore out 1 pair of moccasins and 1 pair of leggings. He walked and he walked and he kept on going beyond the villages. He wore out 5 pair of moccasins, 5 pair of leggings, and still he walked and he walked and he walked and he walked and he wore out 10 pair of moccasins and 10 pair of leggings. And he came to the place where the sun was, and there was a huge house. He went into the house and there was an old woman there, a grandmother, and a young girl, her granddaughter. And he stayed in that place with the grandmother and the granddaughter. And he saw on one wall, hanging, there were quivers full of arrows. Hanging, there were stone axes. Hanging, there were bone war clubs. Hanging, there were shields. There were headdresses. And on the other wall, hanging, there were elkskin blankets. There were mountain goat blankets. Hanging, there were dentalia strands. Hanging, there were deer skins. He said to the girl, "Who do all those things belong to? All those man things, who do they belong to?" And she said, "They belong to my grandmother. And when I am grown, she will give them away." "And who do all these things belong to, all these women things?" "They belong to my grandmother. When I'm grown, she will give them away." And then he looked on the door. There was something shining so bright. He said, "Who does that shining thing belong to? It looks very powerful." She said, "It is powerful. It belongs to my grandmother. She will never give it away." He stayed with them, the grandmother and the granddaughter, for many days. Every morning the grandmother would put on that shining thing. It was a blanket, and she would put it on, and she would go out, and she would come back that night with stone war clubs, with reindeer blankets. She would hang things all over the walls. Every day something else. After a while the man became homesick. He began to look very sad, and the grandmother said to her granddaughter, "Have you been speaking crossly to your man? He looks very unhappy." The granddaughter said, "I didn't speak crossly to him. He's just homesick." "Well, then he shall go home," said the grandmother. "Man, it is time for you to go home. I will give you a gift to take." And she turned to the wall of the man's things were hanging. She said, would you like to have a stone war club? Would you like to have a stone axe? Would you like to have a quiver full of arrows? She showed him all these things. He didn't want any of them. Well, maybe you would like a mountain goat skin for your wife. Maybe, no, he didn't want any of those things. That shining thing by the door, that powerful thing, that is what I want. That I cannot give you. You are human only. You could not control that. That is what I want. He would not accept anything else. Every day she would show him all the things, and he would say no to everything. Every day he would say, that shining thing, that is what I want, that powerful shining thing. Finally, the grandmother's heart was tired. She said, all right, you have decided. I tried to love you. I tried to care for you, but you have chosen. And she took down the shining thing and she put it around his shoulders. And she put a stone axe in his hand and said, now go. Try to control it if you can. And he went and he walked and he walked and he walked. And at last he came to the village of one of his uncles. And he started to go, my uncle lives here. But just then, that shining thing on his shoulder began to shake, and it shook, and it shook, and it began to speak, and it said, strike it, we will strike it, we will strike that village. What? No. And suddenly he lost all reason, and with his stone axe, he raced forward, and he break. He broke the village and killed everyone in it. And oh no, I chose a bad thing. I chose an evil thing. I must take it. It would not come off. It was stuck to him. And he went on and he came to the village of the next uncle and it began to shake again. Strike that village. We'll strike that village. No. But he could not control himself and break. Everyone was destroyed. Everything was ruined. Oh, I have to take it off. He rubbed against trees. It would not come off. He went to the lake and tried to wash it. It would not come off. He took stones and stabbed it. It would not break. It would not come off. It was part of him now. On he went to the village of the next, the third, the fourth, the fifth uncles, and every village was broken and ruined. And at last he came to his home village. At last I am home, but then shaking. Strike it, we will strike it. No, it's my village. We will strike it. And he could not control it. He lost all reason and break. All of his people, all of his relatives, all of his friends, the village was destroyed. He sat down and wept. I chose a bad thing. I could not control it. It's too powerful. I should not have chosen. He looked up and there was the old woman. You. I warned you. You wanted that thing. I tried to love you. I tried to love your people, but you would not have it. You had to have that powerful thing you could not control. She took it off of his back and she left. Well, he stayed in that place. He went a little ways. He built a little house. That's the end of the story. It was collected by Franz Boas from Charles Kelty in Cathlamet, Oregon in 1891. You can see why no one tells it, but it's a good story. And the next story is not quite as depressing. The next story is from Shake It Up Tales, another collection that I did. And this is a story of Little Boy Frog and Little Boy Snake. It has a sad ending too, but it's a little more cheerful story on the way. Little Boy Snake wanted to go up the mountain to play. He woke up and said, Mama, I want to go up the mountain to play. His mama said, well, you can go up the mountain, but be careful where you go. Don't talk to strangers and come home before it's dark. Okay. And so slide. Little Boy Snake went up the mountain. On the other side of the mountain, Little Boy Frog woke up. Mama, I want to go play on the mountain. Well, all right, you can go on the mountain, but be careful where you go. Don't talk to strangers and come home before dark. So Little Frog went up the mountain. Hop. On top of the mountain, the two met. Little Boy Snake saw Little Boy Frog hopping. Hop. Hey, who are you and what's that you're doing? Oh, I'm Little Boy Frog. I'm hopping. Wow, that's an interesting thing to do. But who are you, said Little Boy Frog, and what are you doing? Oh, I'm Little Boy Snake. I'm sliding. Sliding, that looks interesting. Yes, it is. Say, you want to play together? Let's play together. Oh, could you teach me how to slide? Said Little Boy Frog. Sure, it's really easy, said Little Boy Snake. Just lie down, stretch out on your belly. Get on your tummy, stretch out. That's right. Now just use all your muscles and kind of squirm forward. So Little Boy Frog laid on his tummy and oh, it tickles my tummy. Yeah, keep trying. I can't do it very well. That's okay. You keep trying. He could kind of slide a little bit. Well, that's kind of fun. It tickles, he said. Okay, said Little Boy Snake. Now show me how to do what you were doing. What'd you call it? Hopping? Yes, I can show you how to hop. It's easy. You just gather all your muscles together and spring straight in the air. Hop! Okay, said Little Boy Snake. And he gathered all his muscles and he didn't get very far off the ground. Try it again, try it again. It's a little bit, I'll try it again. That's it. Okay, let's play, they said. And so they played all over the mountain. Little Boy Frog was going hop, 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 slide, 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 hop, 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 slide, slide, slide. Little Boy Snake was going slide, 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 hop, 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 slide, 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 hop, hop, hop. Oh, this is really fun, they said. Say, are you my new friend? Yes, I'm your new friend. Are you my new friend? I'm your new friend. Okay, it's time to get home. It's getting dark. Come back tomorrow and play? Sure, we'll come back tomorrow and play. So Little Boy Frog went down the mountain. Hop, 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 slide, 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 hop, 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 slide, slide, slide. His mama saw him coming. Stop right there. What on earth are you doing? I'm hopping. I'm sliding. You're sliding. Who ever taught you to do a thing like that? My new friend taught me. Your new friend, what's his name? Little Boy Snake. Snake, Snake, you can't play with snakes. Snakes are our enemies. Now get in the house. Oh, I didn't know. On the other side of the mountain, Little Boy Snake was coming home. Slide, 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 hop, hop, hop. Slide, 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 hop, hop, hop. His mother saw him coming. Stop right there. What on earth are you doing? Oh, I'm hopping. Hopping? Who ever taught you to do a thing like that? My new friend. What's your new friend's name? Little Boy Frog. Frog, you can't play with frogs. Frogs are our enemies. Now get in the house. Well, I didn't know. The next day, Little Boy Frog went up the mountain. Hop, hop, hop. And Little Boy Snake went up the mountain. Slide, slide, slide. I can't play with you anymore. Frogs are our enemies. I know. I can't play with you anymore either. Snakes are our enemies. Oh. But Little Boy Frog said, but look what I can still do. Slide, slide, slide. Yes, and look what I can still do, said Little Boy Snake. Hop, hop, hop. Okay, goodbye, friend. Goodbye, friend. I'll remember you. I'll remember you. And Little Boy Frog went down the mountain. Hop, hop, hop. Slide, slide, slide. Hop, hop, hop. Slide, slide, slide. And Little Boy Snake went down the mountain. Slide, slide, slide. Hop, hop, hop. Slide, slide, slide. Hop, hop, hop. They couldn't play together anymore because their mamas wouldn't let them. But they could still remember forever their new good friend. And that's my stories, and I hope you'll take them and tell them. You probably won't tell the weapon, but it's a good story, and I think it's really about the atomic bomb, a weapon that you cannot control. But you can probably all tell the Little Boy Frog and Little Boy Snake. It's really fun to tell. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I don't know that I've heard either of those stories. And I think a story about friendship is always welcome. The other one is a little scary. Yeah.
But true.
But true. And right now, what a deal. Anyway, thank you very much. And we can recommend both of those books as well as your many, 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 many other books that you've written. There are so many. And they're also good for storytellers. Your books make storytelling life easy, and I appreciate it. Thank you. And now, many of you have already met Jen, who is Margaret's daughter, and her husband, Nat, and they are here from Bangkok. They're in the process of moving back, I believe, to the States after years of being international school teachers, singers, storytellers, and just and workshop leaders. I took a wonderful workshop with them at the conference and have so appreciated that. And they're working on a special project that relates to peace. So I think we'll hear a story and we'll hear about their special project. Please welcome the Whitman Tellers.
Hey everyone, thanks so much. It's such an honor to be here. I grew up going to Seattle Storytellers Guild meetings. So this group has always been an important part of my life and my world, and so it's such a treat to be here today. And we want to start by telling a little story that's kind of an homage to when I was growing up. I used to listen to Pleasant to Spain with his Pleasant Journeys. So those of you who've been in the area for a long time might have remembered that lovely program. And he has a story called Old Joe and the Carpenter that's in Peace Tales, Mom's Peace Tales. And we wanted to twist that a little bit for today's program. So we're going to tell Old Joe and Old Jane, and this is from Peace Tales.
For as long as anyone could remember, Old Joe
and Old Jane
had been friends.
They were neighbors.
They were friends.
Mm-hmm. They grew up in houses that were right next to each other.
In fact, they grew up in the houses right next to each other that their parents had owned.
Mm-hmm, that's right. Now, these were Seattle houses, been around for a long time.
Yep, but their house was bought so long ago that all of these 4 lots had a beautiful little stream going down the middle, and it was purchased on a middle-class salary. Who would have thought?
Amazing. So this little stream went down between the 2 houses. And, Old Jane and Old Joe, neither of them got married. No. They didn't have kids.
They didn't have grandkids.
But they had each
other.
And every day they would get their coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. And they would meet each other down at that little stream between their property. Oh, when they'd see each other each morning with their coffee, it would be, hey, Old Joe.
Hi, Old Jane. How are you?
Oh, and they loved to talk with one another. Mm-hmm. They could talk all day. Now, they didn't agree on everything.
That's right. One of them, was a little bit right.
One of them was a little bit left.
But they both managed to meet in the middle.
One of them liked hamburgers.
One liked hot dogs.
But they both liked pizza.
Mm-hmm. One of them liked dark espresso from the local barista.
That's right. One loved to have cappuccino with a lot of milk.
But they both loved sugar.
In their coffee. Well, they were those best of friends every day until...
Lately.
Mm-hmm.
One day, they woke up to go meet each other down at the creek. They got their coffee. Mm-hmm. They went down to get the news of the day, but...
Right. Well, it was like, hi, Old Joe.
Hi, Old Jane. How are you?
You have got to be
kidding me.
Now, wait. Jane looked over there. Old Joe, what's that sign you have in your yard?
Well, I can't believe
that sign is there.
Well, I believe in that sign a lot. Old Jane, what's that sign in your yard? I can't believe you have that sign there.
Well, that's what I believe in there. Oh, They were so grumpy. They took their coffee and they went back into their houses and slammed their doors. Didn't come back out.
Old Jane, Old Joe, they didn't meet for, a couple of weeks.
That's right. And they were sad about it. They missed each other, but neither would budge. They were not going to meet.
Well, one day, Old Joe and Old Jane were about to sit it out on a rainy day when there was a knock at Jane's door. Knock, knock, knock.
Jane opened the door, and there was a jolly-looking man with a toolkit.
Why, hello, Jane. I know your name. And I would just like to let you know that I am a carpenter who's been doing work for all of your neighbors. I have this box full of tools, and I can build anything that you want and make anything fixed up in your house that you can imagine. Do you have any work for me?
Well, I do. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I've been thinking it would be great to build a little fence right between on my property line. I don't want to see my neighbor. I don't want to see his sign. Do you think you could build a fence down there by that river?
A fence by the river?
Yeah.
Why, I certainly could, but I can build exactly what you need, Jane.
Well, okay. There's wood out back. If you would just get that fence built today, I'm going to be gone all day. I'll come back and I'll pay you for your work.
Okay. Well, when Jane went off to Squim, that jolly carpenter got to work doing exactly what he said he would, except he did things a little different. You wouldn't believe how quickly the hammer and the nails were flying, and the wood was building something quite amazing.
Well, that evening when Jane came back, she drove up and, well, there wasn't what she thought was supposed to be there. There was no fence. Wait a second. She got out and she was about to give that carpenter a piece of her mind when all of a sudden she saw old Joe.
He was coming over the bridge, not the fence that had been made between their properties. And what a bridge it was, with little steps and a little wooden heart right in the middle. Jane, what a great idea. Thank you for building this. I sure have missed you.
Oh, well, Joe, sure, I'm happy to do it. I've missed you too. And so it was that they looked at each other, and Jane said, well, hey, old Joe.
Hey, old Jane, how are you?
They gave each other a hug, and they started to chat, and they were chatting so much they didn't see that carpenter pick up his tools and leave.
He went down the road to build some more bridges.
He might come to your neighborhood one day. Have you seen him? If you haven't, don't worry. We don't really need him.
Right.
You've got all the tools you need, right?
In your heart.
Let's just start building. That's old Joe. Oh.
You know, it occurred to me we were figuring out how to do the auto harp and we forgot to start with it.
We thought we'd sing just a little bit here. Favorite kind of old song about peace. And you can sing along at home.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul.
I've got peace
Like a river, I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul.
Thanks, everybody. Sing-alongs are a little bit funny on Zoom, but it always feels good to know that everyone's singing wherever you are, so thank you. So that tale, Old Joe and the Carpenter, we had our timer and then we're like, oh, our timer's gone. That's good. I think we're good. That tale, Old Joe and the Carpenter, we've been working on it because we've been working on a purple project, and we just want to give a little moment to talk about this right now. The Purple Minute is a project we're working on to highlight legislative cooperation across the 50 states. So what we've been doing with the help of Margaret MacDonald, Mama,
researcher.
amazing researcher, and she's been researching on our Google Doc, and she's been trying really hard to find really good examples of Republicans and Democrats working together where there are nearly unanimous votes in different states. So it's called the Purple Minute. We are pushing it out with the label Purple Points Project. And I'm going to just pop those into the chat a little bit later. But we've just started this week because there's just about 50 days till the election. We're going to do one every day. And we'd love to have you follow along. We're on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube, wherever we could reach you.
We'll put it into the chat. So if you want to click and subscribe.
Yeah. So then we would love to just share one more story from Peace Tales, our favorite. This is highlighting today. And Mom, what a joy it is to be here with Mom and to have her, gosh, tell those stories. Boy, kind of knocked the breath out of me at first there. So thanks so much. That's really but it's a special treat. We're going to close today with a story called Sandpiper in Wales that many of you might know and maybe have played with. We would encourage you to maybe go on gallery for this because we're all going to be sandpipers in Wales, and we'd love to get faces in and out if you'd like to be the birds and the sea creatures inside this. And we'll just have a good little time with it. It's Sandpipers and Whales. It's a tale from the Marshall Islands.
You know, I was thinking, we first told this tale at a storytelling event for the 2000. Was that the? It
was in the year 2000.
The 2000
when we
election.
First worked this up.
When the hanging chads were being counted.
If you remember
that.
Can you
recall the hanging chads?
It's been a while. But when that happened, there was a phrase that we used to hear a lot that was, it's too close to call. And that kind of inspired our telling of this particular tale, Sandpiper and Whales. So, every morning, little Sandpiper would go down to the edge of the shore where the shore meets the water and would have breakfast and would slurp little minnows out of the ocean. Can you try that out there? Let's see it. I'm going to see your faces. Can you just slurp a little bit? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a good breakfast.
Well, one day when Sandpiper was doing that, Whale came in. What do you think you're doing, Sandpiper? Why are you in the water? Everybody knows that the water belongs to the whales.
That's so silly. Well, I'm just having my breakfast, and everyone knows that this whole bay here belongs to the Sandpipers.
It does not.
Does too.
Does not.
Does too.
Does not.
Does too. Oh.
Well, yeah, you know why I know that the water belongs to me? Because there are more whales than there are sandpipers.
That's just silly. There are more sandpipers than there are whales.
Are not.
Are two.
Are not.
Are two.
Are not.
Are two.
Well, I'm going to show you. And so Whale, he went out to the deep water. And when he went out to the deep water, he called all of his whale friends. He said, whales to the north, whales to the south. Come quick to this island. Whales to the east, whales to the west. Come quick to this island.
And from the north
came all sorts of different kinds of
south?
whales. Narwhals, humpback whales, orcas, minke whales, gray whales. And soon the water around the island was full of whales.
Well, that doesn't prove anything, Whale, because you know what? There are way more sandpipers. And so Sandpiper called out to all the sandpipers. Sandpipers north, Sandpipers south, come quick to this island. Sandpipers east, Sandpipers west, come quick to this island.
And from the north.
There were big sandpipers.
From the south.
There were little sandpipers.
From the east.
There were gray sandpipers.
And from the
west. There were
west.
brown sandpipers. And they covered the whole beach.
But were there more sandpipers?
Or were there more whales?
Or were there more whales?
Or were there more sandpipers?
It was too close to call. Even though we can't count this, I'm going to show you that there are more sea creatures than there are birds in the air.
There are not more sea creatures than there are birds in the air. There are more birds than there are sea creatures.
Well, we'll see about that. And so Whale went out to the deep part of the water, and he called all the sea creatures. Creatures from the north, creatures from the south, come quick to this island. Creatures from the east, creatures from the west, come quick to this island.
From the north
came all sorts of different kinds of sea creatures. There were herring, bluefin, mackerels, all sorts of crazy fish.
And right now, can you just let's get your best sea creature face out there. Sea creatures, yep. Sea creatures, I see a lot of good sea creatures. Yeah. Oh, good. That's awesome. That looks good. Ooh, I like that. That's a good one over there. Well, you know what? That doesn't prove anything because there are so many birds out there. I'm going to have more birds. Sandpiper called out to the birds. Birds from the north, birds from the south, come quick to this island. Birds from the east, birds from the west, come quick to this island.
And from the north.
There were eagles that came.
From the south.
Let's see out there. What do we have? There were, look there's an albatross. Oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, that came. Oh, my goodness. Oh, look at all the heron. Oh, they were so beautiful. But were there more birds?
Or were there more sea
Or
creatures?
were there more sea creatures?
Or were there more birds?
It was
too close to call. Well, you know what? We need to take matters into our own hands. You might want to put that on. We need to take matters into our own hands. Sea creatures, let's eat that little island away from all the birds. We're going to make sure that they don't have anywhere to rest, and we will win this contest. And so those sea creatures, they began to munch and crunch away at that little island. They were munching at the island and crunching at the island. Oh my goodness. And munching at the island and crunching at the island.
No. This is no good. Sandpiper said, birds, we can't have this. We're going to need to get the water out of the ocean. That's what we'll do. That's how we'll win. Hey, all you birds, can you help me drink the water out of the ocean? Let's slurp. They started to slurp. Can you all slurp? Yeah, they were slurping. Oh, but it was faster to slurp than it was to munch. And soon, all of the sea creatures, they were drying up. They were looking shriveled. Can you give us your best shriveled sea creature look out there? Oh no, so sad. Oh no, look at that. Oh gosh. Oh no. Oh, Sandpiper looked and saw all those creatures and saw the little minnows that she used to eat dying. Oh, with no water. This is horrible. What are we doing? This was a horrible idea. Birds, you got to spit back the water. Let's spit back the water. The birds spit back the water, and slowly the water rose, and the sea creatures were alive. They were okay.
Sea creatures. This was a terrible idea, because you know what? We need these shallow parts of the sea, the shallow parts of the ocean. That's where all of our little sea creature fish babies grow up and become big.
Birds, this was a horrible idea.
Let's spit back that land.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The sea creatures spit back out that land, that island.
And soon, now, the birds were fine, the sea creatures were fine.
And the sea creatures, they began to swim back north, south, east, and west where they came from.
The birds flew back north, south, east, west, and Sandpiper said, Whale, I am so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. This was so silly.
Sandpiper, I am so sorry. This is so silly. After all, the bay belongs to both of us. Without one, we can't have the other.
And so to this day, no one knows. Are there more sandpipers?
Or are there more whales? Or are there more whales?
Or are there more sandpipers? But after all, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that Sandpiper and Whale settled down to care for their beautiful bay together. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being together here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for caring to everybody together. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time and your hearts.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And such a terrific example of tandem storytelling. Haven't seen it in a while, and you guys mesh your telling so well. Was really, for both of the stories, really impressive. Thank you so much, as well as the stories being perfect for tonight. And you were just invited to unmute yourselves if you like, if someone else has a comment or something for any of our special tellers. You can raise your hand or just call out.
Great. A lot of enthusiasm. Very well told. Very well told.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kids would love it. I've worked with kids, and I can see you have the skills too. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's our background, right? We're teachers. We've been teaching in international schools for just over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm a children's librarian.
Children's librarian, kindergarten.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can tell.
Thank you.
Great. Super.
During our transition back to the United States, we've been doing this other political stuff on the side.
And I am going to just pop those little links into the chat if anyone is interested in the Purple Project.
Each one's just a minute. You can look up your state if we've done it yet. We've done like 4 states.
Yes.
We haven't done Washington yet. Sorry.
I think that'll be a very interesting project to be looking into. And thank you all thank you both for your wonderful stories and Margaret for her stories. And now I'd like to introduce you to Rebecca Hom, who's living in Walla Walla, but still active in the South Sound Storytellers Guild, she has a story for us on our theme of peace. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening and for all the wonderful stories we've heard so far. And thank you to Margaret Reed MacDonald for making that compilation of peace tales in a book that so many tellers have found useful and inspiring and have opened up the way for us. So I really appreciate it. So much I appreciate it that I'm going to tell a story that is in that book, my variation on that story. I call it Hummingbird. Now, one day, itty bitty hummingbird was just flying through the sky when all of a sudden, shaboom, he fell down there in the deep grass, in that tall grass, and Hummingbird stuck up his two little legs up there in the air. He laid there so still, not moving, just with his feet, his legs up there in the air. Now, boom, 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 along comes Elephant. Oh, a hummingbird, what are you doing laying there? I almost stepped on you. Well, said Hummingbird, I'm laying here holding up the sky because I heard it was falling down on our heads. Oh, said Elephant, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. You think with those two little toothpick legs you could hold up the sky? Well, said Hummingbird, I didn't think I was going to have to do it all by myself. Ka-whoomp! Down laid Elephant and put up his 4 tree trunk legs there beside Hummingbird. And as far as I know, the two of them are there, still holding the sky up above our heads to this very day. That's it, a snippet, and thank you so much. And thank you, Margaret, for including that story in the book.
And I love that story and tell it when I have a short bit of time or the need for a peaceful, cooperative story. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And now we have our wonderful story swap hostess, Marilyn Grevstead. And Marilyn always thinks up great theme or little ideas for people to tell a warm-up story at the swaps. And she has a story, a special story tonight for us. And welcome, Marilyn.
You're muted.
There. Tonight, we're celebrating the UN, but even more than that, we're celebrating Margaret Reed MacDonald. What would we do without her? And I'm telling the story from this book, The Rose Prince. Once upon a time, there was a rose bush that produced the most beautiful roses. They were so big and luscious. And then that rose bush, she made a bud. It was gigantic, and it was so heavy that that bud dipped down to the ground. And that bud opened itself, and there was a human baby inside. That rose bush gave birth to a human baby. Well, just then, Queen Rhoda was out for her walk. She heard a baby crying, and she went over to where the rose bush was, and there was a human baby. She wrapped that little baby in her purple shawl and took it home. She took care of that little baby. And about 2 weeks later, King Lauren came home from the wars. He came to find his wife in the rose bower, and hanging from the branches on satin ribbons was a wicker cradle. And he looked in that cradle and he smiled. There was a baby in there. Well, Queen Rhoda and King Lauren decided to raise that baby. Queen Rhoda was long past childbearing years. And at one time, they had 7 sons, and that palace was filled with the laughter and the play of those little boys running around. But as they grew up, each boy went off to the wars and was killed. These wars had been going on for years. People had even forgot what they started out worrying about. But King Lauren, he was going back to those wars to avenge the murder of his 7 sons. Well, the Rose Prince did well. He was a smart boy, and his father taught him to ride a horse and to use a sword. And his mother taught him to play the lyre and to write poetry. But his favorite thing to do was to play in the rose bower and explore the woods. It was the night before his knighthood. He was growing to be a man, and the next day they had a huge celebration celebrating his becoming an adult and a knight. And his father had given him the most beautiful set of armor. And at the end of that day, the Rose Prince sat in the chapel, and he had that armor before him, and he just sat there and he stared at it. And pretty soon his mother came, and she sat beside him, and she told him all about his birth, how that a rose bush had given him birth, that he was the child of a rose bush. Well, the next day at dawn, it was time to set off for the battle. He kissed his mother goodbye, and he and his father got on their horses in their armor, and off they went to the battle. And when the sky was about high, around noon, they entered that battlefield, and they could hear the screams of pain. They could smell the blood. And just then, a soldier came and knocked his father off his horse and turned to run away, and the Rose Prince chased him. And he chased him, and they got close to the woods, and he knocked that sword out of his hand. And then the Rose Prince noticed all the rose bushes around that forest, and he saw that they were splattered with blood. And he thought, what am I doing? And he said to that soldier that had knocked his father down, get out of here, go, while I'm in my right mind. And that soldier took off, and the Rose Prince went back to the battlefield. He gathered up all the flags and the banners, and he gathered those up. He went into the center of the battle, and he said, stop. Everybody stop. What are you doing? He talked to them about surrender. He talked to them about forgiveness. He talked to them about trying something new, and he convinced them. And those soldiers who were in the thick of battle just minutes ago threw down their armor and they threw down their swords and they started walking or riding for home. And the Rose Prince went back to that place where those roses had grown, where he had been born. And he saw that the roses were splattered with blood. And he said, I don't want to be human anymore. Now, a nightingale was nearby and heard him, and he said to the nightingale, is that rose here, that rose that created those huge roses? And the nightingale said, oh, that rose, no, that rose died. And I heard that that rose created a human, a prince. The Rose Prince said, yes, I am that human that rose created, and I don't want to be human anymore. I want to be a rose. And the nightingale said, I can help you. Stay here, and when it's dark, I will sing my nightingale song, and that song will return the soul of a rose into your body. And so that's what they did. He sat by the forest, he waited, and the nightingale came and sang, and he sang, and he sang. He sang all night long. And in the morning, the Prince of Peace looked down, and roots, he felt them growing out of his feet, and he felt his arms turning into branches, and he was a beautiful, thornless rose bush. And that rose bush lived for a very, very long time. And as long as that rose bush lived, there were no more wars in that area.
Thank you. That is a story that's new to me, and to the idea that a rose could produce a human who ended war is a very moving story. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Could I interject? The story actually is from Sharon Creedon.
Ah.
She gave that story to me to put in the book.
Nice.
Hey.
Great.
And Sharon is one of our Golden Circle people.
Yeah.
That's my words exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a story from Sarah Stein.
Thank you. Yep.
And Sarah lives in Portland and is active in the guild there. Mm-hmm. And now we'll hear a peace tale from her.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
thank you for including me in all these wonderful tales. Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is a short Jewish tale from Morocco. There was once a beggar who was so hungry that he stole a loaf of bread. When the Sultan saw this, he said to the beggar, "You will be punished. We are going to take off your head. We are going to make an example of you and show everyone that you cannot steal." So they took this poor beggar to the courtyard of the palace. One of the soldiers lifted up his sword to behead him. And just as the sword came down, the beggar said, "You can kill me if you want to, but do not throw away my magic seeds. Stop the beheading, said the Sultan. What is this about your magic seeds? That is interesting. Tell me more. The beggar said, yes, they are seeds, which if you plant, you can plant them here in the courtyard. They will grow into beautiful pomegranate trees. However, I want to tell you something. These trees will not grow for anyone that has stolen something. I'm sorry. So they started thinking, the people that were listening started thinking about this. And the vizier, the general, no, he said, I would love to have a pomegranate tree, but it will not grow for me. Because you see, when I was a child, I stole a toy from another friend of mine, and I never gave the toy back. So the tree will not grow for me. Then he went to the general and said, would you like these seeds? And the general shook his head and said, no, they won't grow for me either. Because once the Sultan wanted me to come to him immediately, and I stole a horse, and I never returned the horse. So they will not grow for me. Then he went to the Sultan himself and said, would you like these magic seeds? And even the Sultan shook his head and said, no, they will not grow for me. He said, once I had a war with another Sultan. I won the war, and I stole his land. And so, you see, they will not grow for me. And then the beggar said, I never stole a toy. I never stole a horse. I never stole the horse, land. I only stole a loaf of bread because I was hungry. When the Sultan heard this, he realized that he had made a mistake. And he said to the beggar, he said, I don't know if you really have magic seeds, but you are a very wise man. And he made the beggar into the gardener of his palace. Thank you. That's the story.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That is another important idea about peace, is putting yourself in someone else's shoes, even if you have to do it by telling a story. Thank you.
Welcome.
And I have a very short one as well. And then we can all get together and talk about peace. Once upon a time, a king decided he wanted to give a prize. He sent the messengers out to all the kingdom. Da, 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 da. The king is giving a prize for the best portrayal of peace. Da, 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 da. Paint a picture of peace and win yourself a prize. Da, 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 da. And of course, many, many artists all over the entire kingdom were interested in a prize from the king. And they painted and painted, and it made it difficult for the king and his advisors to sort among all those paintings to see which one was the best portrait of peace. Finally, the king had just 2 paintings, and he wanted to choose between them. The one showed mountains, high mountains, reflected in a wonderful, calm lake, not a single ripple. It reflected the clouds, the fluffy white clouds floating overhead. It was a most tranquil scene. And the advisors all thought, that's it. That is a perfect portrait of peace. The other painting was very different. There were mountains, but they were rugged and bare. No white clouds. The sky was filled with black and gray clouds. Lightning was slashing through the clouds. Down the side of the mountains ran a waterfall, a roiling, powerful waterfall falling into a pond, roiling and boiling the water, and you could just almost hear the sound of that waterfall, the tremendous force that was falling down and on into the river beyond. It seemed to be the opposite of peace. But when the king looked carefully, he saw that behind the waterfall, just on the edge there was a small bush. And in that bush, a mother bird had built a nest. And she was sitting on that nest, calmly waiting for her eggs to hatch. The king said, I believe that this portrait is the embodiment of peace. Peace is not just the end of strife or toil. It's not just the end of fighting. It's being present and calm when there's chaos and strife all around. And being calm and having peace in your heart is the real meaning, the beginning of peace, the embodiment of peace. And if more of us had that peace in our heart, I think the world would be a more peaceful place as well. And that's a story offered by Linda Spitzer for a book published by Laura Sims in 2001. Portrait of Peace. Thank you. And now we have everyone together, and you may unmute yourself and share comments about the stories or feelings that have come up for you. I have certainly enjoyed the stories tonight, and thank you for letting me share. So, thank you all for coming tonight, and let us hope that we can have some peace in the world, some peace in our hearts. Thank you. And we hope to see you at the Story Swap on October 4th and in the Edmonds Library, if you can, on October 19th. After 1 o'clock, we'll start the program at 1:30, and we'd love to see you.
I will comment that the link for the hybrid is on the website, seattlestorytellers.org. I also stuck it in the chat, and Lord willing, we will have it going and going well.
Thank you all for those wonderful stories. If storytelling could bring peace on earth, well, I think it can. At least we can try, can't we?
It's certainly a bridge. And a bridge is what we need, as Whitman's told us.
Yes. Wonderful stories. Thank you, everyone. Beautiful stories. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming. Thank you for the tellers. Let's give everyone who told. I'm not the right person, but I would love to say thank you to all the tellers.
Thanks, everyone.
There's Anne with her round of applause.
Yes.
It was our pleasure to be here.
If anyone wants to make a donation to the Seattle Storytellers Guild, I'm the treasurer. I'm always willing to accept the donations. And thank you to those people who've already donated for this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I will mention that I will be sending out a follow-up email containing a link to the video recording, which probably will take me a few days to get together. It'll also include information about how to sign up for some of these events we've mentioned. And it'll also give you a link to our newsletter, which comes out every 3 months. If you go to the SeattleStorytellersGuild.org and click on Newspaper Archive, it's the very first one on the list. You can find out about a lot more about our programs and other things in the newsletter as well.
And the other thing that's there is a tab for Golden Circle, and you can look and see who we've got honored over the years. And I did say Margaret, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Nervous energy tonight. Margaret is also in the Golden Circle. And you can see people who've been inducted over the years. About every 2 years, we put people in. Barry is also in the circle. And yes, so that's another thing you can find on the website. It's quite a good resource. Also, we have the Gene Freeze Storytelling Scholarship or fund for people who would like to attend storytelling workshops or events that would help them grow as storytellers. You can apply for funds from that, support from that fund. And there's a link for that as well. Thank you all for coming. And
thank you, Judith, for your wonderful hostess.
Thank you.
Words. Thank you.
Yeah. And I look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Now that I'm back in the country for a while.